What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 704 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk Hot Tags of the Week. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Rob DeFelice.
Hey.
And Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And of course, we are going to break down what we feel like talking about from the past few days in the world of sports entertainment / pro wrestling / that wrestling thing that we follow. That means rumors, news, gossip, TV recap, title changes, people leaving companies, people starting new companies, all sorts of different things going on here. So as always, we want to know what you have to say about these topics as well and what your responses are to what we have to say. So drop your thoughts in the comment section below on YouTube or on whatever platform it is that you are listening to. Maybe it's not below, maybe it's to your sides, whatever it is. Look around for it. You can find it. Facebook, Twitter, smarkoutmoment.com itself as well, or even the Discord channel that we have over on the link that you can see on your screen or the link that's on the sidebar of smarkoutmoment.com. Head on over to there and chat it up throughout the week and, tell us what you think about these different things. So as normal, we are just going to bounce around different topics here. And I think a good way to start here is to just start with one of these more random things. It's not like tied to the TV recap stuff. And I guess let's start with Vince McMahon. Unfortunately, another story about Vince. Vince has started a new company. And it's called 14th and I. And, cards on the table, I overslept a little bit today. So when I was waking up and I see a whole bunch of different messages, I see one about Vince's new company and whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, don't tell me that I overslept. And it's going to be one of these Vince is buying back WWE types of things. So a little bit of panic.
That was a talking point this week for some reason.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of panic on me, and then I saw that, and I was reading a group chat with Wago and Kaylin and Peyton and Drew, and they were debating about whether or not this was the 14th Amendment, and I was like, I have no idea what's happening here. You since then, Rob, have informed me that this is based off of the street that the Capital Wrestling Corporation was originally on.
So this was a report from the phenomenal Brendan Thurston of WrestleNomics, and he says, first of all, Brad Blum, another former WWE exec, is the president of the investment firm, and his LinkedIn profile says, 14th and I is a private investment firm focused on the sports, media, and entertainment sectors. We are a disciplined, flexible, long-term capital and strategic partner, primarily targeting buyouts and majority deals, as well as selective growth-oriented minority investments. So that's the way the new group is being described right now. The name stems from the Capital Wrestling Corporation, which was the name of, WWE when it was legit just the Northeast Territory. Was headquartered at the corner of 14th and I Streets in Washington, D.C. So Vince just loves his dad.
No, that's not a crime, but I'm sure whatever he's going to do in this probably is going to be. What happened to Anthem? Or not Anthem.
Not Anthem. That's TNA. Alpha. Well, I think Alpha was so tied into the UFC. I did it too. The XFL reboot that it probably all just went to shit when that went to shit.
All this the investments of whatever capital buy-in, turnover, all that jargon. I hate it with a passion.
They're targeting buyouts. So could we see? There was the rumor that Vince wanted to buy back WWE, but I doubt that's coming.
I don't think he has the capital for it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about the fucking guy, but I can't picture a scenario where he has the money to offer TKO that they would be okay with selling it, And I just can't picture him wanting to start a whole new wrestling corporation or some kind. I think he's going to try to be let me try to just turn over businesses and just be the typical money hungry, pure, not like stock, but like, yeah, I mean, I guess stock, but like
We
not like
don't-
he's not a stockbroker, but you know what I mean? Like,
We don't know him personally, but every story that anyone has ever said about this man says he can't keep his, fingers out of the creative realm. So
that's where he's got his fingers. I thought it was elsewhere.
I was like, it left my mouth, and I'm like, shit. Okay, like,
So it left your mouth, huh?
Yeah.
You're just gonna keep digging this hole, just like Vince.
No, I'm not. I'm just gonna turn it over to Callum Wiggins. Callum, say something stupid.
I mean, I don't want to talk about Vincent holes. But,
Do you want to talk about his fingers in those holes instead, or?
I mean, if I'm totally honest, I don't really want to hear any news story about Vince until it's involved with his like bankruptcy, imprisonment, or obituary. So that's kind of the level I'm at right now. I mean, I don't really care about like his new business venture. I'm more interested in the other story that pertains to him this week.
About John Laurinaitis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is that's a hoot. John Laurinaitis is, I guess, going to it's not like he's like, turning state's evidence, like that kind of a thing or whatever, but he is going to cooperate, I guess, with Janelle Grant's side of things and inform them more on some stuff. And basically, I would assume they approached him with the whole like, well, we'll give you a reduced sentence, or
they'll give you, he's
he's
off.
An immunity type thing, and then
the deal is that he's providing evidence on Janelle Grant's behalf, and he's out of the lawsuit.
He's out of the
now,
lawsuit,
and he can never be put back onto the lawsuit again.
Yep.
So yeah, they basically decided he is probably the lesser of the evils that they are attacking in this lawsuit. So we might as well use him to our advantage rather than spread ourselves thin trying to sue multiple sides of this and utilize his evidence and his understanding and his information in order to go after WWE and Vince McMahon more effectively than they previously could do.
Now, this is just, again, obviously, we're all just three individuals talking here.
Allegedly, blah, blah, blah. There you go.
I do have to wonder if, remember they were really pushing, like, WWE, hey, if you say you've turned over a new leaf, let all of these other people who've come forward out of their NDAs. I wonder if they would have done that, if it just would have literally turned into, all right, we're just suing this. I wonder if, like, because WWE didn't do that, if they're still named. Because Laurinaitis immediately tried to frame himself as a victim in all of this. Remember that? Where he immediately came out and was like, I've been a victim of Vince McMahon's narcissism and yada yada. And now he's officially off, and he's going to be providing evidence.
Curious what he brings to the table that they were like okay with giving him an immunity deal for, like, if he has like some kind of smoking gun stuff, or if it's just a matter of like piling more on, or if they figured, you know what, anything that he gives us is good, and we've already tarnished his image enough that like we don't need to sue him, like he's already punished and not going to be able to get back into things,
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I think I'd be a better judge if I went to law school than a lot of the judges that are out there. But I don't follow this whole legal drama super well, so there's a lot of information that I'm missing out on. But anything that results in bad people being punished and good people getting retribution, I am down for. And that is across the board in like every scenario that's ever out there.
Yeah, I think we just have to be hopeful that this is a good decision that leads to better things for this case, because as we'll find out one way or the other, but there's so much hearsay about it that you kind of can't help but lean more one way than the other. So hopefully that they're able to stick it to him, really, because I think it's about time they did get him the way that he should be gotten.
I will say this. I'm very cynical that he ever gets his comeuppance, but I think even if he by some chance did, like this was finally the one, I would rather them do it in about 4 years' time. Just to make sure he's away, is what I'll say.
So let's bounce to, I guess, well, yeah, let's do this topic. WWE has decided to be very annoying when it came to booking their upcoming events. And we all knew that there was going to be some crossover between WWE and All In Texas, just based off the idea that they were like, Saturday night's main event is going to be around there. It's like, all right, do you really need to put that there? Well, apparently you need to. Well, they are not even mincing words at this point. It's blatantly obvious what they're trying to do. And annoyingly so for people like, myself and Rob, that we have to do this as like job, like cover stuff or whatever, because now we know for a fact after the past couple days that WWE is going to have the NXT show of Great American Bash leading into Saturday night's main event, going head to head with All In Texas. And then, of course, Evolution the night after on Sunday. And they're also being petty enough to call the pre-sale code is all WWE.
That's so fucking funny to me. I'm sorry. Like, that's so funny to me.
It's funny, but like in the troll sense, but at the same time, it's like, oh, come on. Like, we just had this whole thing with the pay-per-views where it was like, man, it's annoying to have the Saturday night's main event and then have Battleground at the same time as All In. Now you want to add an extra one to that? What are we just going to have, like, at the end of the year, we're going to have AEW runs a show for 9 hours like they do, and WWE runs 5 shows at the same time? Like,
well, before AEW gets their residency at the 2300, NXT is going to run the same building the week prior, which I don't see as much of an issue. It's very great for the people in Philadelphia. Have fun watching, like, 8 wrestling shows, but it's getting very reminiscent of, like, I think, like Tony said, like Jim Crockett stuff, where we're just really like, we're running the same venue, we're running the same time, because people keep wanting to compare this to WCW. That didn't happen. Like, Nitro and Raw were on at the same time, but that was it. It wasn't like, and also you're gonna have to choose between Slamboree and SummerSlam or whatever. It was like, it was just the Monday night thing. This is legit like, all right, everything's on at the same time. You need to choose. And as I said to you guys privately, there's no fucking choice here. If you want to, I'm against running shows at the same time, just in general, because in general as a fan, I just would rather be able to
watch
focus
both
on whatever show. Yeah, like,
because I was not able to watch those events and actually pay much attention to it at all.
Bro,
and that was like, I was trying really hard to watch both matches at the same time.
I had TNA on one screen, NXT on another, Double or Nothing on another. It was crazy.
I thought the TNA one too. I forgot about that one.
I think if you're going to do that, you would run not NXT, because who outside of the most diehard WWE fan is going to be like, well, let me not watch what is definitively AEW's WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's going to watch the Great American Bash?
And like, it's the type of thing that it boggles my mind as well, with the strategy of, you sit there and you go, okay, well, AEW is not a threat. All right, well, you're clearly lying if you're doing this. And it shows. Like, we're not stupid. We know that it's only one of 2 options. Either you do think that they're a threat and you're lying about it because that makes you feel better about yourself. Then again, the people that are running this company are the same people that are, not to get politics into there, but like fucking little stupid baby wimps. And that's a whole side of the political spectrum and stuff. So it's like, that like insult type of culture. Oh, fuck you. I'm not hurt. And then they cry in the background. So I could see it being more that way of, they're not a threat. We got to try to stop them. Or they legitimately do not think that they're a threat, and you're doing it for no fucking reason anyway. And you're cannibalizing yourself in the process because, like you said, if you are an NXT fan, more than likely you're also an AEW fan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a disparity. You might not necessarily, but everybody that I know, everybody, whether they're, a close friend of mine or they're into the business or they're covering stuff like, other writers and everything, every single person that I know either watches WWE only, and that means not NXT. They just watch Raw and SmackDown pay-per-views, or they watch WWE and AEW, or in the case of, Callum, we're the one exception that I know that only watches really like AEW, but you're on a podcast about WWE stuff as well, so you can kind of count in that way. And then on top of that, if they watch those two, then they watch NXT. I don't know anybody that watches just WWE and NXT and doesn't watch AEW. So you're going to lose people from watching NXT, and you're going to lose people from watching Saturday Night's Main Event that are going to go, fuck it, I'm not going to get both of those. I'm going to just get All In and watch, I don't know, the major fucking matches that are happening there compared to whatever you put on Saturday Night's Main Event that ends up being, it's probably Goldberg. Let's be honest.
Well, that's the thing is Main Event. If this show is starting at 2:30 and it's going head to head with All In,
when does All In start? We're both asking each other at the same time. Let's see. What time does All In Texas start? Because the Texas time throws me off for a lot of that stuff too. It seems like it's 3.
Yeah. So it's good. By the time we get to, Saturday Night's Main Event, that show's probably going to go on uncontested. And it's just like you're literally just running AEW.
I mean, it depends on how much more time Tony Khan wants to add to AEW. You just be like, and we've got 4 hours of a pre-show now. But I hate this for so many reasons. I hate it for me job-wise. I hate it for me as a fan to not be able to watch these things at the same time. Because, I paid more attention in some matches for Battleground than I did for Double or Nothing, just because at the same time it was a match that I was like, I'm not really interested in. But then, when a more important match happened at Double or Nothing, I was paying more attention to that. I don't know what you're going to be able to put on Great America Bash that's going to make me more interested in that than whatever is happening at All In. And enough with the fucking shows. We don't need, again, another topic we're going to get into, SmackDown being 3 hours. That'll be our next topic. I guess we might as well just mention it. SmackDown's going to stay for 3 hours for the foreseeable future. And it sucks because everybody hates it. And I am trying to strategize how I can avoid watching that 3rd hour now because it's overboard. I'm fucking tired of wrestling. Less is more in a lot of ways. And I am going to go into Evolution on Sunday after all this onslaught of stuff because that also doesn't account for ROH Supercard. And they'll probably run a TNA thing. I'm going to be so exhausted that by the time Evolution comes around, I'm not going to want to watch a single fucking match.
Yeah. We haven't met. Oh, actually, go ahead, Cal.
Well, I'd say I'm just throwing my 2 cents about this whole topic because it's not. I say it's pretty obvious for me why they're doing it. Beyond the fact that I think they know deep down that with All In and Double or Nothing, just purely with the quality of the shows they produce, that there really is no competition between that and whatever you can offer on either the NXT show or Saturday Night's Main Event or whatever shows are going to be taking place at the same time. I think the objective is, I think there's several objectives. I think first it's just to be a nuisance. and just to, like, in any way possible, whether it dilutes it just by a couple thousand buyers or anything along those lines, if anything they can do to dilute the impact of whatever AEW's big show is going on at the same time. Because reports are circulated as well, at least what Brian Alvarez has intimated, to the fact that WWE is planning on doing more head-to-head shows with AEW, at least 2 more between now and the end of the year. So it's clearly a strategy now that they're putting in place, and they feel like is worthwhile doing, despite the potential negative PR it's going to hit on them when people just start thinking, oh, we're sick of having to choose. But I think the bigger part of that is that I think they actually want people to be annoyed about the choice, because when push comes to shove, they will start, if they start making the choices more and more deliberate, start putting more and more things on at the same time as AEW shows, whether that's big shows, and then maybe even further down the line decide, maybe we should put NXT back on Wednesday nights instead, or something along those lines. I think the idea is to get, like, I guess, quote unquote, influencer fans and journalists and people like that who have to cover both shows like you guys to get annoyed and choose, because they believe that when push comes to shove, people will choose WWE over AEW.
But okay, and this goes back to my point of, if you're gonna go head to head, fucking put SummerSlam up against them. Make people
but they don't want to do that, because they don't want their audience to be diluted for a big show. So they will sacrifice NXT, they will sacrifice Saturday Night's to make a small dent, or whatever dent it is, in AEW shows, but they will not put their biggest shows up against AEW because they do not want to dilute their own audience.
I guess they're thinking, let's start small and see how much of an impact we can make. And if they start seeing that more and more people don't tune into those shows, then they're going to either stop, or they're going to be like, well, let's put out a big one. And then... I
don't think they'll ever put out a big one against AEW. Again, I think they are happy enough to just chip away at it and just, like, you know, cause that little bit of annoyance here or there. Essentially, they're going to take steps that, without compromising themselves too much, to, because all they want is to monopolize pro wrestling again, be the monopoly again, and to, like, because anything of having, like, AEW as a whatever level of competition they believe them to be, they are competition at the very least for talent, and they are competition at the very least for, like, in a TV rights sense, because if there's another wrestling promotion out there that's doing reasonably well, it means that they have to bid a little bit harder for television rights and money and that kind of aspect. If they're the only viable option on the market, it means that they have all the negotiation power with TV rights, they have all the negotiation power with stadiums and arenas, they have all the negotiating power when it comes to talent. So until AEW is dead, they'll develop more and more strategies to try and kill them. It's just the way that this company operates.
Business in general, man, fucking evil. I hate it. I want business people to just evaporate. Obviously I don't want businesses to evaporate, but, like, there's like no fucking honor in anything anymore, and I hate it with a passion. I just want, as a fan, I want to be able to enjoy stuff. I don't give a shit about, SmackDown's gotta have a third hour because USA gets more commercials during that. So even if the product sucks and the talent hates it and the creative hates it and the fan hates it, suck it up and deal with it because they're making a little bit more money. No, I don't fucking care. I don't want it.
I would like to go off on a tangent on just the business world in general about that. I'm tired of that. I understand that we're way too honest with everybody right now. And we're just like, well, we're not insulting your intelligence, but we're going to tell you that this is just so we can make more money. As Tony said, I don't care. Like, I want a good product. I don't care how much money you're making. I would rather you make less money and the product be good than the product be shit and you're making so much money hand over fist.
It's the same as, like, for some reason we can't have because again, you weak ass, dumb fucking political people decided to vote for this side of things. Well, we shouldn't be able to tell people what's wrong with our products anymore. We should be able to just put a bunch of weird ass preservatives and things, and then that'll help the businesses. That's better for people. Don't you want those businesses to succeed? Don't you want Target to roll back their DEI stuff and then put out a bunch of did you see the things about that where it's like, okay, they decided to put a bunch of LGBTQ stuff in their stores now as if they're not, fucking against that anyway, and they also half-assed it enough that they have lorem ipsum and product header and everything all over it.
Are you
and
serious?
They also are only putting the tamest stuff in their store, like ally and whatever, but anything that actually says the word gay in it, you can only buy on the website. Like, no, fucking burn in hell, you piece of shit company. And any of these kind of people like that.
Target in particular, by the way, we'll get back to wrestling in 2 seconds. Target in particular, by the way, they rolled it back so quickly that it's like, oh, you never cared about queer people at all. You can just go fucking die.
Right. Any business that runs in that kind of mentality, I do not want you to succeed. I would rather somebody else pick up the scraps. And that comes to WWE too. I would rather TKO go under and for somebody to buy the WWE name or to just like, okay, that's the end of WWE and then we just watch another show or something like that, than for an unscrupulous company in any fashion. If it's a mom and pop store that treats its workers like shit, then I got a new fucking pizza place I can go to. Like, I just don't like that stuff anymore. And my tolerance for evil people doing evil things is lesser and lesser at this point. And yeah, it's like, you can't go, well, SmackDown being 3 hours is evil. No, it's business. I get it. You're just lazy and you can't fucking figure out your creative to make it worthwhile as a fan. But you're being dicks about stuff and you're giving me stuff that's more of a headache and you're not even entertaining me. So there's literally no reason for me to support you on this front. If there's no positives that I'm getting out of it, then here's 2 middle fingers, motherfucker. And a third one, if you know what I mean. Suffice it to say, I don't want to watch SmackDown for 3 hours, and I don't want to be watching Great American Bash at the same time as All In Texas and Saturday Night's Main Event to roll along, and for it to be like, hey, do you not want to watch that big Moxley and Hangman match? Do you want to watch a promo segment on Saturday Night's Main Event instead? Aren't you more interested in Hank and Tank in fucking NXT than, I don't know, Kenny Omega against Kazuchika Okada in a title versus title unification match? No.
No one is.
We put down my Frank Grimes emulator for a second after I just go,
Like, I mean, you watch Double or Nothing. I mean, Callum, you're not watching WWE on principle right now anyway. But you watch Double or Nothing.
I mean, you say on principle, I'm not watching because it sucks.
But I mean, yeah, exactly that though. It's like, even if they were in an evil corporation, is there anything this company can produce right now that would make you go, yeah, I don't need to see Omega Okada in the States or, Moxley potentially losing to Hangman? Like, is there anything this company could do? Especially in
Triple H's public execution, maybe? Maybe he get away with that one. There's nothing really they could do. I'm not particularly interested in anything they're doing at the moment, and I'm not really particularly interested in much of their wrestling talent. Obviously, there's people on the show that I like, but yeah, there's not like a standout match or a standout moment or a standout angle that I think they can pull. The most interesting thing WWE have done in recent times is the John Cena heel turn, and they completely fucked it up.
Oh, fuck that!
In the weeks to follow. So like, why would I trust? Even if they did something like it was like, oh wow, they did this the show. What are the chances of them doing a good follow up for it? Unless it's an idea that comes from Paul Heyman instead. So it probably something to do with Seth's group. So Yeah, if the idea comes from Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, or anybody that's got any real creativity on that in that roster, then maybe, but not from the guy that's actually booking the show.
Well, the guy that's booking the show apparently not a fan of Money in the Bank.
So he's, you know what, a broken clock is right twice a day, so that's fine.
Okay, so I asked Tony to talk about this because I just wanted to say a couple things. Because I saw a lot of people get really weird about this. And it's like, how and why are you getting weird about it? Like, I'll call it Sean's SRS's tweet, where he's like, well, he never participated in them, was never cashed in on, almost like he avoided it. I don't know if Sean was being tongue-in-cheek, but it's like, Triple H never participated in Money in the Bank because for the first 5, I think it was, where he was an active competitor, he was wrestling for the championship at Mania, or he was about to stop being a full-time guy altogether. At the time, I know this is harder for people to understand now, Money in the Bank was like very exclusively for upper mid-card guys to maybe get that push. Hunter didn't need to be in Money in the Bank.
Yeah, you had it for like Rob Van Dam, and you had it for, Shelton Benjamin at the time before he could break out, when you thought that he could Punk, get out of that. And Punk, yeah, Jeff Hardy,
it was a completely different match type. And as far as him never being cashed in on or not liking the idea, yeah, I imagine the guy who still tries to pattern some of his shit after like Flair's NWA stuff isn't a fan of the idea of, I have briefcase, here's 2-second segment, I am now world champion. I imagine he actually hates it, quite frankly. I wouldn't be surprised.
Now, I put up a question of the day thing on EWN about, well, we don't know what it is that Triple H doesn't like about it, but you can point out that there are some flaws to the concept, even if you like it. Like, I like Money in the Bank. I love the concept, but it's not perfect. The same as how the Royal Rumble is like my favorite match. If you're going to say like, okay, you can only watch one match in the entire year in pro wrestling, what would it be? I'd be like, it's probably the Royal Rumble. It's not perfect, and there's flaws in there that I would point out too. But the gist of my question of the day thing was, if you can see a problem with Money in the Bank or whatever, pitch your idea about how to fix it. And I put out my own ideas of like, all right, maybe your issue is that you don't want to have the looming threat that you are like, okay, well, it's too hard on creative to explain why this person doesn't immediately cash it in. No, it isn't. Do your job. Creative is there to be creative. There is quite literally a rule of thumb when it comes to writers. Book yourself or write yourself into a corner. If you can't figure out a way to write yourself out of that corner, you're not doing your job. So if the idea is, oh man, it's too hard, we can't figure out how to do that, just get somebody on the writing team that has a brain that can be creative, and they will figure it out. Maybe you give the person, we don't know who's going to win Money in the Bank this year, but let's just say Seth Rollins wins and go with that. You don't want Seth Rollins to immediately cash in, and you're like, it's going to be difficult to be champion, and we don't want to book around why he doesn't just go on every single show and do whatever. Have him start off by being like, I could cash it in anytime I want, but I want to make sure that it happens at the right time when I can do the most damage. All you need is that one promo, and then everything afterward can be justified in, I didn't think it was the right time. No, I could do more damage than that. Or you can make it a heel who it's like, well, they're so second guessing themselves that they're like, oh, I'm going to have buyer's remorse if I cash in at this moment. And then that just excuses the whole time. Or if you don't want the looming threat and you don't have any plans in mind, first off, book somebody with the Money in the Bank briefcase that you actually want to write for. That's another issue. Don't give it to somebody that you'd never plan on pushing. And don't give the briefcase to somebody and then do the whole thing where it's like, well, now they can lose a bunch of times, and then now we don't have any stock in them, so now we need to get rid of the briefcase or something like Otis. But like, if you don't want somebody to carry it for a long time and you have zero ideas about what to do and you cannot drag it out or whatever, have them lose the cash in. It's that simple. And then open it up to other things. Give Sheamus the Money in the Bank and have him go, I know this is for every championship. I've never won the Intercontinental title. That's the belt I'm going to go for. Now you don't have to worry about the world titles. And people will go, oh, it's supposed to be a world championship. After a while of doing it, people will realize that it's for every championship. If you want to talk about taking a hit to better yourself and give yourself more flexibility when it comes to like the pay-per-views, you can take a hit for giving a successful cash in on the Intercontinental title, becoming a Grand Slam champion to normalize. You could cash in on tag titles and mid-card titles too. It's not fucking difficult.
They normalized it by having Austin Theory fail, and I still think that was one of the worst decisions in Money in the Bank history.
If he would have cashed in successfully and they would have set it up ahead of time that he wanted that US title, I think it wouldn't have gone down as bad. But if he just out of nowhere goes, I guess I'll do this, and he fails at it, he just looks like a fucking loser.
He looks like a fucking loser because he said, "Oh, Roman too tough for me."
Right.
I'm a loser. Like,
yeah, they didn't set it up. It's like, I want the US title. It was just like, can't do anything. Guess I'll try this. Whoops, can't do that either. Like,
Callum, you were going to say something. I want you to get your thought in.
What was I going to say something?
I felt like you were going to chime in.
Well, I think so at the very least. So, I mean, I know about the suggestions that you mentioned. Like, they all kind of make sense to those parts. But I think that fundamentally, just Money in the Bank is a played out concept.
Yep.
Like, it's been 20 years. It's 20 years old. It's not like the Royal Rumble, which has like a kind of eternal quality to it. They've basically done everything they can do with the Money in the Bank outside of. There's only one thing they haven't done, which is they haven't had someone carry it for the entire year until it's going to expire. So that's the one thing they can do, and I think that even though like it sounds like an interesting concept, I think it's both boring and difficult to explain. Because, like, yeah, it'll be exciting in the moment, in the last week or so, when he or she is desperately trying to cash in at every single opportunity. But it's almost like saying, how have you not managed to either like get a successful cash in or like attempt to cash in and lose any time in the 51 weeks in between that point? So it's just very difficult unless someone specifically wants to wait until the very end, which you wouldn't want to do.
And that's kind of the major issue, isn't it? Is like it's very illogical in that why wouldn't you just? There's so many points throughout, the year where somebody is just completely beaten to shit. Why aren't you just like there at every match? Like, I'm going to fucking cash in the minute I see you stumble.
Yeah. Unless you like have the person like enter a year-long feud with somebody who's made it their sole mission to prevent the person from cashing in or something.
And that could be fun too. Like, you can play around with that. Shit, you could do the idea of like somebody keeps losing the Money in the Bank briefcase too. Like, we've had somebody lose, like, Otis lost it to the Miz.
Yep.
And all, but you could trade it back and forth. Like, somebody. You start off with, like, say Braun Breaker wins the briefcase, and then somebody beats him for it in, like, a couple weeks, and then somebody beats that person for it. Like, it's not my favorite idea, but it's like, you can play around stuff. You can be creative. You can try, and you can fail, and, there's different things. But
this is something that probably most people wouldn't like. You could just get rid of it. Bro, shit went away all the time when we were watching wrestling. Like, what the fuck happened to King of the Ring?
What's happened to Survivor Series?
Like, shit can just go away. I understand that now it won't because they've fucking made it one of their tentpole events, and oh my god, we're gonna get $5 bajillion from New Orleans. But like, it could just go away. And you could just put it on ice for a few years, bring it back, and then everybody loses their shit because, oh my god, Money in the Bank is back.
Or you could change the rules. If you don't like it, you can just be like, going forward, Money in the Bank. Like, well, like, we don't know what it is that he's not a fan of. He might just be like, I don't like the cash in, period. And the whole concept is flawed in his mind. Or it could be that he doesn't like the idea about somebody walking around with a briefcase, for all we know.
I think it's the idea that it's hokey. It is very hokey. It's very much.
I don't know him, but my belief would be that he doesn't like the idea of someone winning a championship without having to have a legitimate match to win it.
Probably.
Or having properly earned it. Because, I mean, the thing that comes into my mind when I think about it is when The Miz won his first WWE championship.
And he refused to shake his hand?
And he walks backstage and Triple H is there, like, kind of like vaguely clapping him, and Miz extends a hand out to shake it, and Triple H just keeps staring directly at him, like not moving at all, not even intimating that he's going to shake his hand. Like, he clearly, like, and again, that may just be The Miz and the fact that very few people respect him.
And I know their relationship is different now, but he said the same thing about Punk in the Punk DVD from 2013. He was like, "Hey, look, I'm a big believer that the guy makes the title, not the other way around," while showing clips of Punk cashing in on Edge and just winning the title in 2 seconds. I'm sure he just didn't like that as a concept. Now, and you can't retcon 20 years and go, you can't fucking do that anymore, because that's half the reason. That's half the plot device that they use it for anyway.
I mean, realistically, I think they're in kind of a worst case scenario now, whereas the guy that's running the show really doesn't, like, deep down doesn't like the concepts and doesn't like Money in the Bank, but realizes that it's a kind of, it's now got to, it's now baked in, it's now got its own pay-per-view associated with it, people expect it to take place every year, and there's a good proportion of the fan base that really like it, so he needs to continue doing it, which means more often than not, they're going to half-arse it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a case of, well, I have to do it rather than he wants to do it. And you're always doing something worse when you feel like you're compelled, you're forced into it as opposed to wanting to do it.
Yeah, like doing coverage of the multiple pay-per-views at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
We're watching the third hour of Raw, or third hour of SmackDown. Forewarned, third hour of SmackDown's going to get a lot less coverage from me going forward. I fucking had my time. But yeah, like, so, then pass it off to something else or whatever. Or be like, hey, I don't really like it. Maybe we'll make it an NXT exclusive going forward. And so, like, play around with it, or, try to succeed in some fashion, and maybe you can find yourself a way where it can work.
I think, and this will be the last thing I say on it, but I think once it became a yearly concept, it got a little kooky anyway, because if you think about the first one, it made sense. 6 major stars weren't booked for anything on Mania. They were all ladder proficient for the most part. That's why it was like it being a ladder match with those dudes made sense, and you eventually get to the point where you're like, oh my god, the big shows and money. Why? Like, I don't know. I guess all that to say, like, I do like the concept, but I totally understand and see his perspective on why someone like him might not like it.
Don't put yourself in this position where you Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal the thing. Where it's like, once again, Carmelo Hayes being like, let's give him this thing, and then immediately have him start looking like a loser. And it's like, do you want people to not like this concept? Because that's how you get 10 years worth of people being like, oh, that doesn't fucking matter.
But
like,
that's
why self-sabotage?
That's exactly why I don't want it to become like a, well, now fucking Otis can win it, and it's a tag team thing, because it then becomes Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
Well, if you want to make sure that we have a little bit of money in our bank, you can help support us on lots of different ways. One being pick up some merchandise on Redbubble and TeePublic. One being click on the little thanks button that is up on YouTube right now. If you are live for the live chats and the podcasts that we do, the super chats are basically the same as the little thanks button. Of course, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe, totally free. Helps us out quite a bit. And make sure you also ring that little notification bell to get those email alerts about those live podcasts. Next to the subscribe button, there is a join button on YouTube. And if you are listening to the audio only versions outside of YouTube, you can also head on over to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment. And you will get access to the exact same tiers that are over there. So if you are more of a Spotify person and you would rather be on Patreon instead, that's just the same. So that's $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, and more. And the Darkcast tier, of course, you will only be getting access to the Darkcasts if you are on the Darkcast tier. The same with the Pick Your Poison. You can only make sure that we do a podcast episode of some kind if you are on the Pick Your Poison tier. I always take the suggestions in mind. If people just hit up Discord and say why don't you guys do an episode about this? We might get around to it, but we certainly might not. And Pick Your Poison is when it's all right, I want to make sure you watch this show or this match or this movie or whatever it might be. Or I want to make sure you guys do a Mount Rushmore of such and such, or a top rope list of your favorite managers of all time, or whatever it might be. I don't know. That's kind of up to you. That's all the point. So help support us, help us keep the lights on here, help us put a little bit of moolah in our bank. Not the fabulous moolah. I really like that idea. But Money in the Bank, though, we've got, potential switches and, different people qualifying and stuff like that we're going to come back to in a little bit. Championship-wise, here's something that I found kind of funny. WWE decided to, unintentionally, I'm sure, I don't see the point in actually doing this on purpose, spoil a title change that has still yet to happen. I guess Vikingo is going up against Alberto Del Rio tomorrow, the 31st, and it's for the Mega Championship. And they decided to put a graphic up on Raw that was like, hey, that Vikingo and Chad Gable match, that's for the Mega title. So I wonder if Vikingo's winning that match. I'm all for it. Not only does it make the match more interesting because the belt's on the line, even though, of course, Vikingo would not lose that immediately to Chad Gable. Still kind of confused why it's Chad Gable instead of El Grande Americano. But that's another whole story. But I am also a fan of it because it would mean screw you, Del Rio.
Yep. That's why I have almost nothing to say, because it's just screw you, Del Rio.
Yes, I can join in the unified screwing of Alberto Del Rio. But yeah, it's
not
quite
talking
funny.
About Vince. The unified screwing.
The unified screwing, yeah. But I think that it's the right move to make. Vikingo is a far more palatable choice for to be the champion and to be the one that they do the crossover shows with and defend the championship against Chad Gable. It's just quite funny that they haven't. Maybe they just don't think their fans know who the champion is in AAA and don't think that they'll research it and find it out beforehand.
Oh, the AAA fans know, that's for sure.
Yeah, but
who cares what the AAA fans think?
So if you are a AAA fan and all that, now you know what happens. It'd be pretty interesting if they ended up not having that be the case now, but I don't think that's, again, who cares? I guess Del Rio did some kind of thing where he attacked Vikingo's dad on some talk show or something. That's another thing that goes along with that, but I don't watch AAA, so let's not bother covering more than that.
Let's see him beat up men for a change, though.
Before we get into the TV talk, here's another thing. Mariah May has taken off the AEW roster, and also apparently Abadon is finishing up with AEW. And the Abadon thing, it's been a while since we've even seen her, so that's not at all surprising. It's also been a while since we've seen Mariah May, and that's not shocking either, considering all the talk about her wanting to leave and wanting to go to WWE and everything. So she's not out of her contract now, as far as I'm aware. Maybe something's changed. Maybe I'm unaware of a change in that.
According to Fightful, she's not out of her contract yet, but she's all but out of her contract.
Just that naturally expiring, or is it we're just gonna let you go?
I think it's naturally I think they're probably naturally letting it go.
I don't know when she signed her contract, but obviously, even though she didn't make an official debut on AEW TV until
That's right.
like about September time in 2023, I think she was signed for several months prior to that, and they were just waiting until because they needed to get the timeless Toni Storm character going to get that storyline underway.
That's also stupid. I mean, like, it's good if it works out, but it's like
that's the thing. That's the thing about this whole, because I know there's a lot of people that are saying like, oh, like they should never have pushed her as hard as they did if they knew that she was just going to end up going to WWE. It's like, dude, you got your best ever women's storyline out of it. Like I say, it depends on your mileage on it. I know some people weren't as big a fan of it as others, but on the whole, it's the best and most talked about women's storyline they've ever done. It made Toni Storm into kind of the megastar that she is now. So I think that overall it served its purpose, even though eventually you were going to lose her to WWE if that was her dream goal. They utilised her to the best of her abilities to get somebody that would be sticking around in the future over to the next level. So I think that overall it was a successful way of doing it, and realistically that's how a lot of wrestling should take place, which is someone comes in for a few years, does stint, then goes to another company and does other things there as well. So, you know, that's the route they're going to take. And AEW is always going to find that, especially with people of a certain age demographic, that if they've only ever known WWE and WWE is like the thing that got them into pro wrestling in the first place, then they're going to be fighting an uphill battle to try and keep hold of them if their eventual goal is, well, WWE is always going to be my end game. And that's the case for Mariah, so...
I think it sucks in the sense that I would like more people to make the choice of, well, let me see if I can continue to grow this brand. But I also understand, hey, that is her dream. You know, she deserves it. She's gonna make more money.
I kind of put it in this kind of context. Like, if you give me 2 very focused years and very heavily pushed years of a Mariah May compared to 20 years of Kofi Kingston or The Miz or Dolph Ziggler or anything along those lines, then I'm going to take the 2 years every single time. Because, as I say, even though it helps you build a familiarity and a connection with them, like most of the time, I mean, most of, outside of like fits and bursts and sometimes when they are pushing them, the vast majority of those guys that I mentioned careers is pretty forgettable and pretty nondescript. And it's a case of, well, it's that saying, familiarity breeds contempt. You over time, you do start to just be like, oh, I see you every single week. I see you every single show. Why can't I just have something different? Give me something different. So, yeah, certain people you do need to keep around, you do need to build up and build the brand around. But AEW has women like that. They have Toni Storm, they have Willow Nightingale, they have Chris Statlander, people of that ilk. Maybe Mercedes will be one of those people as well. We don't know what her long-term vision and plans would be. But it's a case of, if Mariah wasn't going to be that, at least they maximised the time that she was there. So,
I agree. I just feel like, you know, you should want people to want to help build your brand. You know what I mean? Like, I understand it's like, I agree with you in terms of I'll take 2 years over 20 of Kofi in terms of like a focused push. But at the same time, you don't want to create a slippery slope where a lot of people decide to go.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. And I think that I assume that they did it with the hope that they would be able to convince her to stick around longer. I don't think they decided, oh, she's only going to be here 2 years and she's going to leave. Like, I guess there was the hope that they could convince her to sign a new deal to keep her around for longer. But like, as like, she seems to have her heart set on going to WWE no matter what. So yeah, I think sometimes you do just have to have that trade-off. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it goes, really. Especially if you're like, and this will be the case for AEW probably for a little while, because they are the definitive number 2 company. There will be people that feel like they can utilize AEW as a stepping stone to WWE. and there'll be people that just want to be on TV and want to be featured and want to be focused on AEW. So it's she just falls into the former category. So it's unfortunate for them, because I think that there's more that she could have definitely done given with other rivalries and other positions. But yeah, I think that she's decided she's going to take a step over. I mean, it's obvious where she's going and how quickly she'll be pushed in that company, considering something that happened on NXT this week. So I think you need to be a rocket scientist to know where she's going, how soon she's going to be there, and how soon she's going to be holding championship gold.
I mean, so I just bury the lead here that she's going to be a manager in Evolve.
I mean, Callie Armstrong doesn't need a mouthpiece. Now that she's the new champion.
Well, let's talk about that, because we are, we're not going to give much time to Evolve, but Callie Armstrong is the champion now. The Evolve Women's Championship was settled on this episode, and I would not be surprised if not a single person that listens to this podcast has checked out a single episode of Evolve, let alone or heavily invested in it. But it was Kylie Rae and Wendy Chu, Kendall Gray, and Callie Armstrong. In order of elimination, for anyone that's curious, Wendy Chu got taken out by Kylie Rae, Kendall Gray got taken out by Kylie Rae, and then Kylie Rae got taken out by Callie Armstrong. And next week, the Fatal 4-Way for the men is going to take place. That's Keanu Carver, Jackson Drake from the Vanity Project, and Idris Enofe, who you might know if you watch NXT back in the day, that he was a tag team with Malik Blade and Brindley Reese, and Super Sean Legacy, who is still waiting on the North American thing, which we'll come around to that as well. But yeah, from what I've seen about Callie Armstrong, sure, makes sense, I guess.
I told you, I can't remember if I said it on the air or not, but I told you when I was watching her on Level Up, I said, "No, she's good. Like, you can see, like, she's got something," and I'm glad they see it too. And I hope this leads to even better things.
And another story about Evolve is, if you watch LFG, Leigh Laurel is now on that roster and following in the footsteps of Troy Yearwood. And you can kind of assume that for the most part, the LFG people are going to be put on Evolve, unless they are like a Jasper Troy who won, or a Tyra May Steele, where it's like, okay, you're on NXT, that they'll be on Evolve. And NXT and Evolve crossover as well too. But the bigger story more so is that now we know confirmation of one of those trademarks, because we were speculating who could Jin Tala be, and it's her. So she's Jin Tala, not Leigh Laurel. They did the typical thing of like, wow, it's so great to have you here, Jin Tala from LFG, under a different name, but we're not going to call you that. You're going to fight Carly Bright next week. We're never going to call you Leigh Laurel again. But good for her. She gets on that.
Yeah, I'm glad. I think that, she has a cool look. She has a chance to make something of herself. That's really cool.
So now let's backtrack a little bit, start getting into some TV stuff. We did mention Money in the Bank. Again, we're not going to dive super deep into Money in the Bank stuff, because we do have that pay-per-view stuff coming up next week or so. So, Penta qualifying over Chad Gable and Dragon Lee. It's just a news thing for this week. There you go. That's your information. We're not going to be like, now did we debate if Penta's going to win, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it's clear to me that they see more in Penta than they do his brother right now, though.
And Rey Fenix is on the Worlds Collide card instead of Money in the Bank. He could have been a very good person for Money in the Bank, but does seem like, maybe it's just because he's got more momentum, or maybe it's just they like him more. I don't know.
It's a charisma focused company. Penta has more charisma. Phoenix is slightly better in the ring.
Merge the two together, and you got your 50th next Rey Mysterio, right?
You've got a Lucha brother.
Smooth operator making its way in there. Roxanne Perez doing some more work on trying to, seduce or whatever Dominic Mysterio. A giant plate of chicken nuggets again. Envious. I'm hungry right now, so that sounds good. Seems like Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer annoyed people for being backstage.
Yeah, they're Magosphere podcasters, and Tom Segura in particular is the guy who, I don't know if you remember, like a couple of years ago, it was like not a big story, but like it was a story on the old websites that he was just like, fuck wrestling. It's fucking fake and dumb and stupid.
Well, hopefully they put him through a table or something backstage to be like, is this fake? New Day retains the tag titles. Io Sky and Kairi Sane had a little backstage thing with Morgan and Rodriguez. So I guess the champion has nothing else better to do than to potentially fight for the tag titles soon.
Well, yeah, because they took the main challenger and said, you're in a ladder match, Rhea, who, by the way, I learned this past week, has never been in a ladder match. I just assumed at some point that she had done something in NXT or something.
Yeah, I was surprised about that too. They wasted time with a bunch of other promos, blah, blah, blah. Lara Valkyria, Jey Uso, etc., etc. Nothing on that front. Michael Cole made fun of audio technical issues that they had backstage. And Seth Rollins qualified for Money in the Bank, as we mentioned before. They did carry on a little story again with Karrion Kross saying that Sami Zayn's never going to win the title. So, a little breadcrumb for something to continue until they either inevitably drop it when they have no idea for this whatsoever, or that they actually pull the trigger and it's probably underwhelming. Let's be honest. NXT, though. Man, talk about a show that I did not prepare going the way that it did. I was like, let me get up some of my news stuff a little bit ahead of time and whatever, but I don't have to write up anything about these titles because they're not changing hands. And the show starts off with Ethan Page beating Ricky Saints to win the North American title. And I went, well, goddamn. I got that one wrong.
Faith in Ethan than you did.
Yeah, to me, I read that as, well, they want Ricky Saints to pop up on Worlds Collide, and he goes around and he does these other shows when in that time frame for AEW. Like, he probably would want to do that. Probably a fun guy to retain the title over somebody else, whatever. Did not anticipate that it would be Ethan Page going down and doing the Worlds Collide stuff. And I thought that it was maybe too soon for Ricky Saints, but now there's some rumblings that he might be getting called up already. And we'll come back around to that discussion again with another talking point. Mm-hmm. But they did a whole heavy brawl thing at the beginning of it. So it's not like Page just beat him straight up. It was, he used a steel chair on his neck and so forth. So he's protected. But later on, Page was cutting a promo about how he won the title. And they announced that Javon Evans and Ray Phoenix and Laredo Kid are fighting Ethan Page at Worlds Collide. Which then brought up another point of, Ava, what the fuck are you doing with Super Shawn Legacy? This guy won a number one contenders match, and you immediately said, yeah, but never mind, moving on to somebody else, and then we'll come back around to you. And then I did it again. And at least they called attention to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, to be fair, they must like Shawn Legacy, because there's plenty of people who they just wouldn't have said anything about.
Yeah. And they had Stevie Turner and Robert Stone be like, Ava, the fuck? Shawn Legacy won this and you keep pushing him. And she's like, it was a dumb excuse, but like, yeah, well, I wanted to make sure that there was somebody from Raw or SmackDown and somebody from NXT and somebody from AAA. It's like, okay, so not Evolve?
Yeah.
Like, logic. But yeah, Ethan Page is the North American champion. He is, I'm assuming, going to retain at Worlds Collide, but now I don't fucking know. Maybe that's when Javon Evans wins the title. And
I think he's losing.
I mean, I could see it being Javon Evans wins the title, and then we have the Javon Evans and Shawn Legacy match, and then that's what they were building up to begin with.
I didn't even go that deeply. I was just thinking, Phoenix can be champion for 3 weeks. It'd be a boost for NXT. You're like, oh wow, look at this exciting Ray Phoenix.
Could be that. I don't think it'll be Laredo Kid.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
You never know, but I doubt it.
Right. Yoshiki Inamura is back, and he's like, yeah, I came back for you, Briggs. So that was an interesting story of I'm leaving and I'm not.
Like if they've been best friends since childhood. Like, it's very strange.
Not a fan. To be honest, I haven't liked this tag team
I
at
haven't
all.
liked anything they've done with Josh Briggs outside of pairing him with Jensen and Fallon. And I had way bigger hopes for him when he was involved back in the day.
When he had that Evolve 138 or whatever it was show, and he was the champion and everything, and it was like, oh, you should sign this guy. This guy could end up being a big thing. That was like, how many years ago?
That was like 6 years ago.
7 years ago or something. And it's like,
he was jacked. He had like the, just kind of like Steve Austin black trunks, jacked, full head of hair. I thought like, oh my God, there's your next guy. I could have never foreseen that he would just be doing what he's doing.
Crazy. Santana beat Mike Santana, I should say, from TNA, beat Tavion Heights. And a little bit later on, there was a backstage segment with No Quarter Catch Crew where Charlie Dempsey was like, well, now that Tavion knows that he's a fucking loser, and now that Miles Bourne knows that he's a fucking loser, can you guys go back to just being a tag team that I boss around? And Bourne was like, no, man, I want out. And they're going to have a rounds match next week, Dempsey versus Bourne. And if Bourne wins, then he's out of the NQCC. So I'm assuming Heights is going to be on Bourne's side and Ren Sinclair is going to be on Dempsey's side, but they haven't announced that yet. And I am also assuming that Bourne wins and that this is his exit from that group.
Yeah. The only thing I can say is the rounds match made me think, haven't seen that Heritage Cup.
Nope. You went ahead and you put that belt or that trophy back in the hands of Noam Dar, and immediately afterward,
Stable fired 2 people and said, well, stick around. I think we're making NXT Europe again. Hold tight.
So frustrating. Not as frustrating, though, I would say, as what they did with the D'Angelo family story here. This was dumb as shit. So if you didn't watch Battleground, and I don't blame you, Tony D'Angelo lost his match against Channing Stacks Lorenzo because Luca Crucifino, who was written off TV as potentially whacked by Stacks in the desert, but off screen, because obviously you can't show that on screen anyway, and you knew that he was going to come back or just be fired, shows up and stands there and just stares at Tony D. And it's awkward as all hell. I do not know what they were trying to go for here. And this was their opportunity to explain it. This is how they explain it. Tony D's like, yo, Luca, what the fuck was that all about? Why did you just stare at me and just show up and do nothing and then try to hug me? And I'm like, oh, they're going to call attention to something that makes sense and try to justify it. And they realized how dumb it was. Now they double down even more. Luca's like, man, Stacks just left me in the desert. And I didn't reach out because I thought that would be a bad idea. But I decided to just show up anyway. And I didn't say anything because I didn't know what to say. You could trust me.
That's the alternative ending to... not The Living Daylights, but the other adult movie where he left me in the desert, but I made it out of there.
You mean the Craig film?
Was it? Yeah, it was Craig, wasn't it? Where he gave him the oil.
Dominic Green gives him the oil, and he's like, I bet you'll go a certain amount of miles before you consider drinking that.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck do you mean? He drove me out further, like a dog that you're trying to get rid of. You're free, boy. Go run in the woods.
You're free, Luca.
Way back, and then didn't confront Stacks, didn't confront Tony. Just sort of said, "Hey, Rizzo's in hiding. Didn't
get a phone call at the whole time. Didn't go like, oh man, I've been walking for fucking hours and hours in the desert. I'm exhausted and I'm at a truck stop right now. I need somebody to pick me up and watch out because Stacks tried to fucking kill me and whatever." Nah. You're like, I think I'll wait 2 weeks and then I'll just show up at the fucking pay-per-view and stare.
Maybe he had just walked the whole way and it took him the 2 weeks. Who knows? Just left the man in the desert. I don't know what they're doing with this story. It's not like my favorite story to begin with, so I'm not too upset about it, but like, This doesn't make any sense. Where's Rizzo? Why is everybody just in hiding? Why did you break up this group if you had no real solid idea for what they were going to do?
Well, now Rizzo's going to show up and she's going to be like, hey, Tony, I decided that I was just going to go out of hiding and not tell you and stare. And then he's going to be like, something doesn't smell right. It's like, oh, you fucking
but
moron.
I'm getting worried that it's all going to actually lead to, no, that's what they decided. And they're not with Stacks. They just decided, hey, we're with you. Like, what happened here? What are we doing here? Like,
he's going to be like, Rizzo, I tried calling you up. Stacks was right outside of your hiding place, and I didn't follow what was happening there, whatever. Where have you been? And she'll be like, I was making some sauce. Like, it took a while. You got to let it all cook. All the meat fused in together with it. This is so poorly written, and it's such a shame because it's so fucking obvious. It's the mob shit. There's a million mob movies out there. Stacks tries to take over Tony D. He recruits the other people because they think Tony D's gone soft. They all turn on him. They whack Tony D. He's not on there anymore. It's fucking done. It's easy. My God.
it really is silly. It just is.
Poor storytelling. TNA is now Trick-and-A, by the way.
Let's talk about it.
He's going to set aside his lemon pepper steppers, as he had said. I thought that was funny. And fight Mike Santana next week for the title. So I highly doubt Santana's winning that belt. But
he's probably... just to follow that up, on Impact, they announced that the winner of that match will defend against Elijah, aka Elias, and against all odds. Not next Friday, next Friday actually.
Mm-hmm.
So a week from Friday. So
that's your Trick versus Elijah based off of the tag team match setup.
This title used to be fought over by Kurt Angle and Sting. Like I like Trick, but like what Elias? Like, what?
There was also an announcement about Worlds Collide that Stephanie Vaquer is going to be in a tag team match against. Now they said the names, so maybe I'm going to get it wrong. Dallas, not Dallas, and Chica Tormenta.
Yes, Tony, Chica Tormenta, not Chica. It's not Chick-fil-A.
The Chick Tormenta. It's spelled Chick. I was like, maybe it's Cheek, but I did not know Chica. So that's what happens when you run two pay-per-views at the same time, where I can't hear that when they say the names of the people. They're going to go up against Stephanie Vaquer, and Lola Voice is like, I'll be your tag team partner, because they're just like kind of friends or whatever. And we'll come back and talk about them in a moment. But Jada Parker beat up that stupid Tatum Paxley. You dumbass. I'm not gonna be fucking, I'm not your friend. And then Soraka and Zarya.
Like, what is this? What? Oh, now she's got friends in Zaruka now.
Yeah, Zaruka came by to be like, all right, well, we're not complete dicks, so if you want to talk to us. And Thea Hale went after Parker, so I don't know if that's like pro Paxley or just anti-Parker. But
I think it's more anti-Parker.
Probably.
Zaruka kind of did the whole, hey, we're unlikely friends. And now you can be our unlikely friend. while the culling is watching in the background, so they're probably going to try to manipulate.
Yeah.
Pac.
I'm assuming that's how that goes. And, when it happens, we'll see. Izzy Dame will come by and be like, listen, loser, you should be my friend. And Tatum will be like, okay. Because that's what happens.
Poor Tatum. For what it's worth, I think she's tremendous as a performer, and I think she's fun, but they're not giving her much.
They are making her such a sad sack. She's just like, this poor girl in storyline. I'm sure behind the scenes she's got plenty of friends at NXT. In the storyline, everybody has friends. Like, everybody's like, there's a whole fucking university in NXT apparently, and a whole mafia family, and all these other things that go along with that. And this one poor girl who has done nothing at all to not have any friends is like, I can't get anybody to be my fucking friend. unless they want to leave after a few little, couple months or something like that. And it's like, I'll be your fucking friend. Jesus Christ, Then again, I tend to attract the gothy, emo-y girls. So, yeah. Look at my wife. Love her to death. Jasper Troy made his in-ring debut, beat up Dante Chen. I was like, oh, they're advertising this as Jasper Troy debuts, and I'm like, who's he going to beat, and why is it Dante Chen? And then I see, the next segment comes out, and it's like, Dante Chen's in the ring, and he's like, doing his, kind of taunts pre-match and stuff, right? And it's just like, whoa.
Were you not entertained?
Not at all. Obafemi's like, hey, Jasper Troy, dude, fuck you, man. You came out here and you decided to try to make a name off me. I'm going to murder your ass. So maybe they go in.
I will say, Jasper Troy, like the look.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like he's got a good presentation to him. For some reason, once I saw him step in the ring, I said, Black Hole Slam? And sure enough, that's how he won.
And I will never hear that wrestling move's name and not immediately have in my brain, Black Hole Slam. Ethan Page did the whole promo thing we talked about or whatever, and then they led to the main event. Jayne beats Stephanie Vaquer and wins the NXT Women's Championship. And I did not see that coming at all, especially after the North American title changed hands, because I was like, all right, well, Stephanie beats Jacy, and then they have another match with Fallon, and then you get a triple threat, or that's the breakup of Fatal Influence, is like Jacy loses the match because Fallon costs her, either intentionally or unintentionally, and then they break up and whatever, and then Stephanie starts something with Lola Vice because she's got the tag match. Nope, Jayne wins, and you know what? I'm fucking down for it. I like Jacy.
I'm super down for it. First of all, Jayne, cool, has always seemed to be like really passionate about wrestling. Glad she's getting this chance. I also just like the subversion of like, it felt so obvious, and it ended up being, nope, they pushed down Jasmine Nix literally so she could walk away from them, going to the other side of the ring to distract the referee, allowing Fallon to do the 619 style kick on Stephanie. But it was one of those moments, man, where I looked at the clock as she's lining up for the discus and I said, no way. And it hit 3, and they knew what they had, because they had like Mike Rome, as if he was calling the Undertaker losing to Lesnar, just be like, what? Here's your new champion.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was really cool. You could tell it was an emotional thing for Jayne. I think Vaquer is just moving up. And for that matter, I think Jordynne Grace is probably moving up too.
The rumors are that those two and Ricky Saints will be moving up soon.
Which is crazy, but like, fuck it. Jordynne Grace has headlined several pay-per-views. She doesn't need to be in your developmental. I feel the same way about Mariah May, by the way, but I understand if they go that route.
Well, like Callum was saying, now is when you bring in Mariah May to replace the people that if you bring up Stephanie Vaquer, and especially if you bring up Jordynne Grace, Vaquer, Perez, and Julia all leave, you need to bring in somebody like, a Mariah May to start filling in the banks a little bit.
Well, I think that if Mariah May does come in, she'll only be in NXT for probably 3 or 4 months, like the same with Julia and Stephanie Vaquer and everyone else has been, realistically. Like, they weren't in NXT for longer than half a year, so I don't think Mariah May would be there for any longer than half a year as well. That's what they're just doing. They're introducing them and helping bolster NXT's star power for a short period of time before saying, well, you're obviously going up to the main roster pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't think that Mariah would want to, I don't know, like, maybe she just wants to be in WWE and doesn't really matter where necessarily that is, but I don't think that with someone who has demonstrated how impactful they can be on AEW's main shows, I don't think that they would want to keep that in NXT for too long. Especially considering how weak the main roster women like is in general in certain areas.
Yeah,
So
I think more so you're right. Like that they'll bring her into NXT to be like, look, we're not going to put you straight on the main roster. Let's introduce you to the fans. Let's get you to work our style a little bit, and then you win the women's championship, and you have that for a couple months, so then you move up to the main roster. I don't think she'd be there even for like a full year.
And as I say, I'm not a follower of NXT. Probably, it's not even my place to make any sort of commentary on this decision. What I will say, like, the two things that stand out though are the choice of who they'd had to beat Stephanie Vaquer and in Jacy Jayne. I'm kind of, as I said recently, I'm in favour of the idea of like more random title switches and a few shock wins here or there. I think I draw the line when it comes to the World Championship, when your promotion's World Championship, because I think you shouldn't never really put that on a mid-carder unless you've told a story where they've moved from mid-carder to getting opportunities and have started pushing their way upwards, and they're clearly on an upward trajectory. Whereas this feels like
she stole
a
win.
gold watch. Well, a gold watch title reign.
Hmm.
It's like you've been in NXT for a while. You were part of the like Toxic Attraction thing, and you're like a side character there. So you've been here. You've been a good soldier. We're going to give you the world title for a little while before you hand it off to Mariah May.
Kind of like the Indy Hartwell title reign.
Yeah, although I think they probably had a bit higher hopes for Indy Hartwell until she got injured. So I think that there was like at least some hope that they would be able to capitalise on the groundswell of support she had. Whereas I think the Jacy Jayne, because realistically, she's not even the best person in her faction to have won that title. If you wanted it to be taken somewhat seriously, like Fallon was a much better candidate to win that title. You have probably at least like half a dozen women in NXT that have a higher ceiling, or at least a position higher, that would have made more sense to beat Zarya than Jacy Jayne. Like you probably could say, put Zarya. I'd put Fallon definitely. Thea Hale potentially. Just like there's no, you probably wanted a heel to win, and you've got the factions around him, so he gets that benefit as well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would make a habit of making mid-carders world champions in any promotion, regardless of what it is. And then the choice of Stephanie Vaquer and Jordynne Grace in particular moving up is definitely necessary because they would add some much needed star power to their shows. But it also shines an even harsher spotlight on the recent releases of people like Dakota Kai and people that and Shayna Baszler and they, because if you do start to stack it with this star power, especially on the Raw side of things, because Raw recently got Roxanne Perez as well, SmackDown recently got Julia. You've got on Raw side, you've already got Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria and Io Sky and Rhea Ripley and a lot of other big name people. You add Stephanie Vaquer into that list, it feels stacked, which is good. But who's there to eat the pins? That's where you needed someone like a Dakota Kai or a Shayna Baszler around, especially now Zoe Stark's gone injured as well. Now it's almost like gone in the opposite direction. It's now way too top heavy to the point where, okay, you've got to decide which one of these people that could be really big names for your roster, which one are you going to downcycle in order to push the right one? And the people that they do downcycle probably won't be too happy about that. So it could be a bit of a power dynamic thing going along.
I mean, I can imagine like a Michin eating a lot of pins, or a lot more, unfortunately.
The issue's not so bad on SmackDown, because SmackDown does have a lot of pin eaters, and there's been a dearth of talent on the women's roster on SmackDown for quite a while now. They've needed to adding Julia and Jordynne Grace definitely works for that. It's the Raw side which is a lot more stacked on one side than the other. So, I mean, you can resolve that by calling up other women from NXT that are not going to probably ever reach the top of the mountain. Like a Tatum Paxley is probably never going to be a prominent world champion. So you could call her up at any point in time, just say, okay, you're here just to fill out the mid card. But yeah, I think that, but I'd say, like, these people that they're moving up, they shouldn't, well, there's an argument they should never have been in NXT in the first place, but at least it's allowed them to get their feet wet. It means that they're added to the NXT title lineage as well, and then they're just moved up to be more serious stars on the bigger shows.
See, I kind of get the vibe that it just means they're going to start throwing Maxine in more matches. It means, Natty's probably going to get a TV run again. Stuff like that, which is unfortunate, but like I'm looking at the Raw roster right now. He's not kidding. It's not deep at all.
Now, I have maybe I'm completely wrong, like I was about the titles not changing hands. I don't think that Jordynne Grace is getting called up right now. I think they're going to call up Stephanie, and I think that they could potentially call up Ricky. But I think that also kind of depends a little bit. Like, they might keep Ricky around. Maybe he's going to be, for all we know, maybe he's the guy that beats up Femi, even though that seems kind of crazy to me because he's like, 4 times the size of Ricky Saints. But I think they're going to call up Stephanie. I think they're going to put her on Raw. And I think that Grace is going to be the one that beats Jacy. And that they wanted a transitional heel champion in between Vaquer and Grace instead of just Grace beats Vaquer. So they give the belt to Jacy, partially because they had already given the women's North American title to Fallon. And it was like, once you did that, it kind of made it seem like Fallon was the leader of the group. Now you give a different belt to Jacy, and it's like, okay, well, now it makes sense that you would argue that the two of them were kind of on equal footing. And Jacy holds it for a short amount of time. I think she loses it at Great American Bash, specifically. And they had Jordynne Grace as the only person that showed up in the graphic for that. So I think that that's kind of their plan is, well, we're going to have Jordynne Grace win the title opposite All In. And that's going to be something that people can talk about, even though that's not going to compare to a lot of other things. And then Grace holds it for a short amount of time frame, and Grace is the one that loses it to Mariah May.
I can see it. I don't like the idea of Grace wasn't good enough to beat Stephanie.
I don't think it's a matter of not good enough. I think it's more so they didn't want people to be upset that Grace won because the people like Stephanie.
Yeah,
they can boo a heel beating that, and then they can cheer when Grace beats the heel.
Yeah, I guess. I just feel like, with that being one of the top matches they could have presented, people would have understood, two of the best women in all of wrestling right now just went at it.
Mm.
And
I think you resolve any potential booing by just having them shake hands afterwards.
Yeah.
And they did just do it with Julia. So it's not like, that they don't do that. But that's at least my analysis of the whole thing. I could be dead fucking wrong. For all I know, Jacy loses the belt on this next episode of NXT to Fallon or something. Yeah. But yeah, interesting. So now we got to wait and see. Are we going to get Ricky Saints and or Jordynne Grace and or Stephanie Vaquer on the main roster? And if so, when and where and how and why?
We could find out as soon as tonight. And if we do, I'm going to give some serious thought to the idea of, did we ice the draft? Like, instead of doing a draft, we just we're going to call people up naturally.
I'm more so thinking that that's the case because I'm not hearing any chatter about that at all. And with the amount of time that they could have dedicated towards doing a draft, and they could have set something up ahead of time, and that they just flat out haven't said anything. They haven't even announced that it's coming in the future or anything like that. I think that they're probably not doing a draft, which, in some ways, if you don't want to do it, then it's fine. And in other ways, it's kind of annoying because I like the draft and, some for content. I like being able to do the, what should they trade and all that. We could still do it. I mean, it's not like we had to do it like that, but it'll be a little bit weird if we do a special episode where we were talking about what should the draft happen, and it's like 4 weeks before they end up announcing it or something. But it feels like they're not going to do a draft, and they're just going to call people up and trade people, and the next thing you know is going to be like, why is Apollo Crews, who's on the Raw SmackDown roster, why is he showing up on Raw? And it'll be like, oh, look at that. The newest acquisition is, there you go. So stay tuned for Stephanie Vaquer, possibly going up pretty soon. Maybe even Ricky Sainz, etc. And then let's move on to the Dynamite stuff that we got going on. Round out our episode today with some AEW talk some more. Hangman Adam Page and Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland had an opening promo, setting up 3 of the top baby faces, not necessarily all getting along. And spoilers when it comes to Collision, Swerve and Ospreay apparently have some kind of like a backstage fight. Sure. These are the people that are going to be involved in, the blood and guts match or something or whatever. I'm okay with it.
Interesting that they're going to go in that direction when it felt like, Swerve was being set up for the Young Bucks, but maybe they got other ideas.
Yeah,
I still think it could be Ospreay and Swerve against the Young Bucks at All In.
That feels well forced.
It is a little forced, but I feel like it still would be. I think at that point you're just looking to have a great match.
Yeah, I understand it's a banger match, but like even I wasn't in love with the idea of Swerve and Hangman teaming, but at least that story was there.
I think that it's like just a cool visual to have these 3 guys, like the 3 top baby faces in AEW, just not on the same page with each other, but Ospreay's trying to play this like peacekeeper rallier type role of like, we've got to work together because we've got to make sure Hangman wins the title back and gets that title out of the grip of Jon Moxley, and Swerve and Hangman just can't stand the thought of working together still. So I think that sets the wheels in motion quite nicely. I think the thing that's given me a bit like pause thought in terms of like a potential title change at All In is that report that came out recently that essentially both Ospreay and Hangman were pitching for the other guy to win the match.
Yep.
Which doesn't really give a lot of give a lot of strength to the idea that they know which one was going to win and who is going to be beating Moxley at All In and becoming the new champion, if both of them were saying, well, this guy should win, and it wasn't settled until the day of the show. That kind of gives the idea of, I guess neither of them are actually going to win anyway. It didn't actually matter.
Yeah, like maybe they're not winning. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's the belief that but I kind of like balance out the idea of, well, realistically, they could have had either of them win and made it make sense, and either of them could have beaten Moxley and it makes sense. So they were just struggling to come to the answer at the end of it. So who knows really? But yeah, it's set out to be these guys will be interacting with each other in the lead up to the Moxley match, which is a good thing to have.
Still thinking it's going to be Darby on my end. We had another group of people, just like, not the all-star match, but a mixed trios match. And it's just match, like nothing really happening there. But Ricochet follows that up with dropping as many hints as possible that Action Andretti and Leo Rush are going to become his stooges, because he's like, I need a group that's following me, and a crew that I'm looking for needs to be the right crew. And this crew that I'm going to potentially recruit spelled with a CRU. Like, yeah, it's like, all right, have those 2 come out there and do that. I'm not opposed to it. They're flippy guys. They can work underneath Ricochet. They can lose matches on his behalf. Sure.
Yeah, it's a good grouping of people that just have a mix of just being detestable heels, but also just have really great matches with high flying moves and stuff. So, and I think that it was very heavy handed. It's quite obvious the route they're going, but I'm not against the pairing, and AEW's
Don't you mean the
almost
crew
always
that they're going?
Gates of Agony.
yeah.
Clearly.
And AEW's always been best when it's like essentially just faction warfare across the promotion. So more factions there, really.
So that was followed up with an ODQ tag match. Mega Bad. More towards that theory that you have about the tag titles. Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford beat Anna Jay and Harley Cameron. And for some reason, this has been like a theme for this week or so. I think like more so this month. Why are all these women getting their noses busted? Like Chelsea Green, I think it happened twice. And then it happened to both Harley and Anna Jay, or at the very least Harley. But Anna was getting checked up on at one point too. All these noses are just getting attacked lately. It's okay to move away from the torn ACLs and go to a broken nose, but damn, that's happening a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate coincidence. You know, these sort of things seem to just happen really in bunches. It feels like it just seems like there's a certain injury of the month or the quarter or whatever you want to refer to it that just seems to be happening repeatedly, and it's just a pure coincidence happening. It's not anything particularly dangerous or out of place. Just a mislanding, a just falling on the face accidentally when they're supposed to be getting their hands up. So, you know, it's just an unfortunate series of coincidences. And then we'll get to the fact of like the match itself. Like I said last week that I thought they would lead in this direction, which they did, and then there's the invariable, like, pretty much they have a pretty flawless average when it comes to women's hardcore tag team matches, and this one was the exception that proves the rule. Just wasn't good at all, unfortunately. Like a lot of botches. The injuries are obviously unfortunate as well, and I think Penelope Ford absolutely botched the finish as well when they were doing the Doomsday Device, and she just missed.
I can't believe. Okay, look, I'm obviously not a wrestler, or whatever, blah blah blah. But just pick it up and do another move. If you know it didn't hit, just do another move. You know,
I think it's the issues like the 4 women involved, and sometimes it hasn't really affected the quality of a lot of the hardcore matches they've done beforehand. But the 4 women involved are pretty inexperienced. I think they just like had everything laid out the way they were going to do it and just followed it to the letter really, and don't really have either the confidence or the reps to improvise when things go a bit off the rails.
After that, the Ops beat the Frat House. Now, I had not paid any attention to anything about Frat House ahead of time. If they were on a show that I was watching, I didn't notice it.
They're Ring of Honor. Yeah, they're Ring of Honor group.
I thought that was the case because I was just like, what the fuck is this? Why is Chase U coming out?
Well, I mean, you could argue it's potentially equivalent, but it's a group of people that are a bit of like lost souls in Ring of Honor, because it's
Griff Garrison, Jack Jameson, Preston Vance,
Cole Carter,
2 Dimes.
Yeah, so essentially, like Griff Garrison and Cole Carter were an established tag team under Maria Kanellis as their manager, but Maria was let go, so they don't really have much going. I think Cole Carter was injured for a while as well, which kind of stepped the act back a bit. Jack Jameson lost like Bear Country because of that one dick who won't be spoken about, that was gladly let go. And so they've just brought all these people together to do a frat house gimmick, and it won't get over because it's a pretty bad one-note gimmick. So
I think they got the right people for it. I just don't think it's very effective. You know, like the frat house, where like Jack Jameson doing the frat house fits. Cole Carter does seem like a, kind of douchey frat boy. But
Griff doesn't have any personality though. He doesn't.
Griff, because he's
quite devoid of charisma.
But he's also still super young, and I think he can find it. But he won't find it doing frat house.
I don't think you'll find it in this gimmick. I think he has the most potential in terms of just like an in-ring performer, but he won't like get unlocked part of this group. I think I've just realised because like I hated what were they called? Him and Bear Country.
The Iron Savages.
Yeah, I absolutely hated the Iron Savages. It's like my worst. Like I gave him so many of my worst awards last year in the AEW thing. So maybe he's just like maybe they just need to let him go, or like he needs to figure out what he is. That's not just a loud guy, a loud jack guy shouting at a microphone. Because like it clearly doesn't work. Every gimmick that he's been part of is a bit just lame. But they got beaten up by the guys, so that's fine.
Yeah. They served their roles as jobbers.
No Hook.
No Hook?
No, they didn't follow up. Yeah, they didn't follow up from that thing from Anarchy in the Arena, so that was a bit surprising.
A little bit weird. Instead, they had a segment afterward to follow up on all the little spider graphics that we've had, which we knew was going to be Thekla. I mean, I wouldn't have known without other people telling me who Thekla was because I don't watch any of the stuff that she had done before. But Thekla comes out as Jamie Hayter is about to get interviewed, and Thekla just immediately attacks her. And it's just like, all right, well, we don't need to even pretend that there's an interview going on. So I've heard some good things about her. I would get to see her.
I think she's a bit of an interesting character. I think that I liked a lot of the stuff that she did earlier at her time in Stardom, where she was a bit of an enigmatic performer, quite not weird, but a bit different in terms of the style that she brought. But the last thing that she did in Stardom, which was being part of the Hate faction and like cutting promos about like wanting to destroy all the idols, it just didn't work very well. I don't think she was very effective in that role, and it kind of soured me a little bit on her. But hopefully, it's a bit more of a return to the past stuff that she was doing in this new role. I think that it could work out. Obviously, you've now lost someone in Mariah May, so there's a opportunity there for someone to step up and be a solid mid-card to main event level, depending on how well she fits in. And it seems that Jamie Hayter has slotted into that kind of gatekeeper role for the AEW women's division, which is, it's an important role to have. You need to have someone in there that's going to be the person that feuds with the new blood that's coming in, or the people that you're trying to push to the next level. Hopefully that doesn't mean that she never wins a world title or never gets positioned in that way again, but it is key to have someone. I mean, I'd say The Miz has often taken on that role in WWE of okay, someone's coming out from NXT, who's their first feud? Oh, it's The Miz. Oh, someone's coming back from either AEW or we signed a new person. Who's their first feud? Let's come in with The Miz. So every promotion needs to have that gatekeeper type role.
Yeah, I think it'll be exciting to see how she does in this crowd. We need more women's feuds, not about titles, so I'm all for that. And I think she's got a cool look. She's clearly charismatic. And that seems to be, even though AEW is far more the wrestling company, that seems to be the vibe that this company is, getting known for. Like, Toni Storm is wildly just a character and charisma, and Mercedes can obviously wrestle, but there's also so much character work there. So I think it's a good fit.
We also got one of the people, which we now know all of them, are going to be fighting Kenny Omega for the International Championship in a 4-way. Brody King beats Josh Alexander. And then for Collision, you can check out those spoilers if you want to know who the other two people are.
You excited for 4 hours next week?
Nope.
I like it. I like AEW, so I'm good. And it'll at least be 4 hours where they're wrestling and not showing ads. So, and there won't be a media screen after, so I'll be fine.
Well, they're still going to be running ads. It's going to be on TV.
Well, yeah, I don't watch it. I watch it on Triller. No ads for me.
They don't have any commercials at all?
No commercials during matches.
Oh.
Yeah, you either have instead of the picture-in-picture stuff, you'll just hear the commentary and you'll just see the match fully.
Yeah.
And then yeah, instead of like when the periods were there are just like ads on the screen, it's just like an AEW logo that appears for a while. So
By the way, same thing with Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. When you're watching on Netflix, when they're doing a match, there's no ads.
If you're on a VPN.
Yep.
Well, yeah,
SmackDown.
I wouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't worry about that. It's not like I'm in the UK suddenly.
Yeah. I'm not paying for Triller. How much you have to pay for that?
I think it's like $6.
Yeah, $6 a month, I think.
Yeah, I'll overhear the dumb ads and save my $6. More stuff. Paragon and Don Callis family. Yeah, basically the same stuff going on. It's just regular storytelling, nothing super special there. And then Tony Storm and Mercedes had their face to face to just be like, well, we're gonna fight in like 50 days or whatever it is.
Yeah, I thought it was an effective segment. I thought the crowd was super into the fact that this match is happening, which is great to see. Tony was obviously cutting her innuendos about how like she has a tunnel that the money train might go through, or like all that all that little bits and pieces they throw at each other. I think that there's a chance this could main event.
I wouldn't do it.
I think it wholly depends on what you're planning on doing with the Hangman and Moxley match. If you're having Hangman win, then definitely that has to main event. I think if you're planning on Moxley retaining, I'd probably lean towards having this match main event instead. Just think it would be a bigger deal that way. I think if you have Moxley retain the title, it's not even the fact of like whether it's a bigger match or a better match or anything of that sort. It's more of a case of if you have Moxley retain, it's going to feel deflating, and that and I don't think you want to end your biggest show of the year with that kind of sinking feeling that crap, we got super behind Hangman winning the title and Moxley retained again. I think you need to bury that a little bit as the semi-main or a bit further down the card, so people can come back up to the big match at the end. So I'm not against the idea of Monet and Storm being the main event of the show. I think it's your two biggest women's stars. You haven't ever have done a women's match as the main event of a pay-per-view. So I don't think that it's either out of the question or that too far-fetched to suggest that would be the main event.
It's just one of those things where I think the minute you go, whether you announce it ahead of time or you like people find out when they show the graphic for Mox and Hanger before the main event, I think it's one of those things where you go, fuck, he's winning. Like, you know what I mean? So even though I agree with you,
it does give it away a little bit, but I think that you kind of have to sacrifice the giving away part to like know that the to not have that sinking feeling at the end of the show, because then it's almost a case like you build it up even more, and then it's the disappointment of Moxley retaining, then it's going to hit even harder almost. So,
well, I'll say this: regardless, if they do want to have this main event, I'd like to see them up the intensity, because I love Tony Storm. Think the promos are funny. I would like to see some intensity going into the main event of what is the biggest stateside show they've had.
You mean you don't want somebody to just being like, I'm going to talk like this, and that's it?
It's not even that. It's just like, and look, I would say it for like, I hate The Rock's promos. You know, it's like, I don't need the conversation about pie when you're fucking building the main event of WrestleMania.
But isn't it so great when he points to his goosebumps?
I think over it. It's like they've got 50 days.
Yeah,
and they're going to wrap up. This their first ever interaction really on TV. So they've got no animosity towards each other because there's no reason for them to have animosity. They've never wrestled each other or had really a conversation with each other. So you've got to build it up over time.
They've done a great job of making the show feel like okay, you know, this is their biggest show of the year. They've got 50 days to tell two really great world championship stories, and I want to see them pull it off.
Yeah, and then fill the undercard with like your Omega versus Okada and potentially Ospreay and Swerve against the Bucks, and tons of other matches as well. So yeah, I think they've got plenty of time to build this up. So hopefully it's as big a show as and as great a show as we're hoping and expecting.
Alrighty, so that's what I got down for the hot tags, at least. And naturally, any other kind of stuff that's happening, SmackDown tonight, we got 2 people fighting for the Money in the Bank qualifiers. I'm assuming it's going to be Jade Cargill, and I'm actually thinking it's going to be Carmelo Hayes and not Jacob Fatu. But
I'm thinking it's going to be Melo and Jade as well. I think Melo, if he does get in there, shoots high up on my list of potential victors.
Could be. I still think it's going to be Rollins, but we'll have to see. And I don't know. Bianca's returning. John Cena's going to be there to cut a promo with Cody Rhodes, do the same old thing. And next week, we're going to get into all the other remaining Money in the Bank stuff that we're going to do. So go back and check out the fan announce table of the 2015 Money in the Bank ladder match that we had watched previously for this week. If you do want us to do the 2005 rewatch, then keep that in mind and, either do the pick your poison to make sure that we do, or bombard me with a bunch of comments below about how you really want it. We are still holding off a little bit on finishing our Mount Rushmore discussion, but we'll get around to that when we get an opportunity, sometime in the next few days or so. But Money in the Bank stuff coming up is the next plan for this next week, as well as Worlds Collide predictions. I don't know when we're going to record it, but that'll be up at some point, so stay tuned. Make sure that you are following all the different things that we had mentioned before and all the other things you can find at anthonymango.com or amangotree.com. Follow me on all those different platforms. Pretty self-explanatory. Go there, click on stuff if you're on those accounts, then click follow or subscribe or whatever it might be. And then also follow Robin Callum.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out Fightful.com. Check out Fightful Select. But check out Callum Wiggett.
Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at WithMaster14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday on smarkamoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And while you're there, you can head on over to the Fantasy League or head over to WWEFantasyLeague.com to check out how our rosters are doing and who's picking up points at this very early stage of the competition. So see how that's progressing, and just follow the points along there. Oh, there have been a couple of trades, by the way. Made our first. Me and Tony made our first trades of the season. As I said in the original video where we announced the rules for it, you get a maximum of 15 trades per season, unless you win more trades by winning the pay-per-view predictions. But I have traded Javon Evans for Alexa Bliss, and Tony, you traded. I'm just gonna check here. You traded for Jacy Mateo, and you dropped Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah.
Him.
So now I'm hoping Carmelo doesn't win that, at least from that front.
Yeah. And I'm happy that both Cody Rhodes and Bianca Belair are back, because I desperately need points at this point. I've fallen very far behind at a very early stage.
Well, is Robin lead or am
I? You're both pretty much on the same points right now. You're both in like the 90s.
Yeah, choosing Roman kind of screws me over. He needs to hurry up and come back.
So we'll see when he does. And we will also see everybody next time around with the Money in the Bank stuff, as we mentioned before. But that's going to do us in for episode 704 of the Hot Tag. So thank you for listening. Thank you for those comments. And anything else that you guys do to support us, thank you in advance for that as well. But that's going to do us in for this episode. So thank you again for tuning in. Adios for now. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.